Welcome, Sue, to our Making Love Real segment of our worship. And we are so grateful that you could join us today and honored. Before we jump in, I was wondering, to the degree that you're comfortable, can you give us a little bit of background as to what your spiritual and religious background is and how you know about Beatitudes?
Well, I'm a Presbyterian, even though
Okay.
I have been part of UCC churches.
Yeah.
My mother lived in Fresno, and she became part of a UCC congregation there, so that was my first introduction.
Oh,
But my
nice.
husband has served at the Beatitudes
He
in
has.
in the 80s, 1980, no, in the 19, yeah, in the 1980s, early 1980s.
And
No,
what did
late 80s and the early 90s. Anyway, Bill Nelson was still there, and Jean worked with the youth.
Oh, wow, wonderful. So you know Beatitudes legacy and kind of what we are trying to put out there is that at Beatitudes, excuse me this morning, at Beatitudes, we say that God is love. So when someone asks you, Sue, as a Christian, how do you respond or what do you say when somebody says God is love to you?
Well, many of us experience our love for the first time through our parents, if we're fortunate, and I certainly was. Young children can also have a strong sense of right and wrong, which later can translate into a striving for justice. That happened for me too. As I learned about the love of Jesus in church, and when I learned about civil rights guaranteed in the Constitution, my understanding of love certainly deepened. I seemed to gravitate all my life toward those people who talked about love. Cesar Chavez, Mahatma Gandhi, Eleanor Roosevelt was a model for me. Martin Luther
Oh,
King, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, among others. In psychology, I learned that even if a person has been deprived of that love as a young child, that someone can intervene and make a difference, can give them that sense of love that they then are able to carry with them throughout their lives. My response has been to act out love with my family and with the community. And my goal has been to help others, such as my children and grandchildren, as well as children in general. I have been a child advocate for much of my life, working on legislation and working in programs for children. But more recently with migrants, I've wanted these people to have freedom and opportunity. And I forgive myself when I see that I have failed to do that. I have just a quick story about children.
sure.
When our youngest child, Diane, was about 6, I took her to see Dr. Running, our doctor here in Phoenix. And she had some chest congestion, so he wanted to look at her in the fluoroscope, which they did in the old days until they learned that it could be damaging.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Running had a little room, and he and Diane went into it. But as she went in, she said, "Is he going to be able to see God's love in my heart?"
Oh.
So she must have gotten that from Sunday school.
Wow. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Excuse me. Well, along the same lines, how do you see what you do then as an author and a humanitarian voice for No More Death to embody this, making love real for others?
Well, in the migrants and the asylum seekers that we see coming into Southern Arizona, we see their expressions of love every day because of the love they have for their family back home. They take that unknown, dangerous journey to find to God knows where, in order to provide for their families. For example, when we were getting ready to move to Tucson to start working more closely with No More Deaths, Jean picked up a young man from a day labor center to help us get our house ready to sell. And this fellow told us he was working 3 jobs in order to send money back to his family in Mexico. And he was supporting them, but he hoped to rejoin them soon. On migrant trails, a lot of belongings get left behind. And, as people disencumber themselves along their journey. And the humanitarians find these belongings, and sometimes they find letters from mothers or girlfriends. They all express the love they feel for their father or brother or sister or boyfriend. We also see it in the volunteers who take a week or a month or a year out of their lives to work in the southern Arizona desert, in the 100+ heat or the winter cold, to take water, food, and first aid and blankets to the people they know are in desperate need. When you read the stories they've written, and as you have in my book, you can just feel the love and compassion that they have for the people who are coming here to escape violence or starvation, or simply for a better life. Shortly after we arrived in Tucson in 2007, I recognized that something important was taking place. And I knew that more than 20 books had been written about the sanctuary movement in the 80s. And I wanted to be one of the ones that wrote about No More Death. I hope the book will help more people in the United States develop a greater understanding of the issues of immigration and the need for immigration reform, of the needs along the border, and of the sacrifice being made by the many people to respond, in order to respond to the needs of the people with love in their hearts.
Wow, that's so powerful, Sue. Your servant heart has just exploded with this issue. Excuse me. So for those of you that are watching and you would like to hear more of my interview with Sue, I would encourage you now to go to our website, and under media/videos, you can see part 2 of my interview with her, or you can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch that as well. And for now, we're going to sign off, and I thank you, Sue, so much.
Thank you. Nice to be with you. Nice to be in the Beatitudes Church again.
Oh, we love having you.